You're not going to want to miss this episode of the AI Show where we talk all about scaling your AI ML practices with ML Ops and Azure Machine Learning. This is a three-parter, part one of three. Make sure you tune in. Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI Show. We're talking all about scaling your AI ML practices with ML Ops and Azure Machine Learning. This is part one of three, and I've got my good friend Abe with me. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Fantastic. It's been a while. We
Yeah,
talked about
yeah,
ML Ops before. I'd love to get the down low on ML Ops again, but AI
yeah.
is changing a lot, right?
It sure is. There's a lot new stuff happening. I'm super excited, and as you can see, there's a lot of breaking news in the past. I guess we're recorded in May now, so a lot has happened. So as you can see, like Microsoft has been super busy in 2023. Things along, partnering with OpenAI, Copilot for almost everything. So you're seeing a Copilot for Office, GitHub, VS Code, Bing, Edge. I could keep naming SharePoint, OneDrive. I the list can go on. So you're probably thinking to yourself, all right, how is Microsoft releasing all these AI models
Yeah,
to
because I've
production?
done machine learning stuff and
Yeah.
it's actually quite hard. So,
Yes.
how
Yes.
does how does this kind of innovation, how do you keep pace with this kind of thing and how do you do it yourself if you want to do it?
Yeah. The big part of doing this at scale is it's always thinking about how can adapt this to some sort of MLOps or some sort of pipeline to quickly release these models to production. And that's what at Azure Machine Learning we partner with a lot of teams internally to help them with MLOps. And you're probably asking, what is MLOps? If you haven't heard of MLOps already, um, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
So basically, what MLOps is how do we get these ML models to production? So as you saw, all these OpenAI models, how did Microsoft get them to production so quick? So MLOps has three main pillars. So it's the people, it's the process, and it's the platform. And it's like, how do you bring together all three of these major pillars to make sure things are automated? Your software infuses ML and delivers, continuous values to your customer in a quick time, right? So in the people, process, and platform aspect of things, Azure ML does help with the platform. Um, you know, Setu and Scott will talk about processes we've talked about, we're coming up with the MLOps accelerator, but also getting the people enthusiastic about MLOps is a big thing. And what are the key benefits of MLOps here? Like the real key benefits of MLOps is if you have these three things working together, you're going to increase automation, collaboration, and reproducibility, which would then equal faster things going to production and in a secure manner that's super auditable. So that's kind of like the big thing about what MLOps is. If you haven't watched the video we recorded last year, we go into more into detail about this. So I'll recommend you check this out.
Yeah,
Um,
so a question I have before we get to the next stuff is I have found this a lot because I talk to a lot of people about machine learning. I have found that there is no amount of platform or tool that will cover up bad process or people not buying in to the
yes.
process. Is this your experience as well?
That is definitely the experience. It's like, any software. It's like if you're like everybody use Git and you have somebody on your team using like OneDrive or Dropbox to put their
Mhm.
code, it's
Oops.
really not going to work. Yeah, exactly. So, when Git first started, everyone needed to buy into Git. How do I do Git push, Git commit? And now the tools and platform are a lot better. So people have better processes, people are educated. So I would assume, or like most companies are doing the same thing. They're
Mm.
upskilling people MLOps on like how do I use these tools to get stuff to production faster. So you're right, the people is super important. People need to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, just like they had to do for Git, PRs, GitHub, and things along those lines to collaborate quickly.
The other question I have is machine learning, because I come from the DevOps world. I've done DevOps stuff before, but machine learning is by nature just different. Would you say the process is different from DevOps to MLOps? And if so, what does that difference look like?
Yeah, the process is slightly different. And, luckily, like we've thought through this over the past year to really make sure we can conceptualize it. So we've talked to a bunch of customers over the past year to really talk through what this life cycle looks like, right? What is the difference between machine learning and the DevOps world? So as you can see on the screen, what we've come up with is, three big pillars and a surrounding managing loop. So as you can see, like over the past year or 2 years at Azure Machine Learning, we've talked to many customers and validated these hypotheses. And what we see for enterprise machine learning life cycles, it's usually starting from prototyping, then I go to training, and then I go to operationalization. So basically what that means is, most data scientists, when they're working with stuff, this is why it's a little bit different than normal DevOps, is they basically work in your dev branch. They prototype, they work on notebooks, they work on the hypotheses. Then you can't just like release things to prod. You have to then train that model somehow. So, there's the loop in the middle. Like, how do you train that model? How do you scale up? How do you compare experiments, pick the right model? And when you've picked the right model, how do you then prepare that model, put it in the right container, maybe start operationalize that model, deploy it to prod, and when that thing is deployed to prod, how do you then monitor things, promote things from the dev stage into prod when it's going to deployment? So, when you think about things that way, that's how we kind of look at, the real ML lifecycle. It's not just a linear process. It's more of
Right.
cycles that can go back and forth, and then it's always surrounded by some sort of managing loop, because nobody wants their data leaked. Everybody wants, everything to be in your company or in your enterprise and just safe and secure.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at this is actually really, really cool because up here, the process is different. When you
Yeah.
start building a machine learning model, you really are doing experimentation. But then when you
Yes.
move into the training phase where you want this thing to be repeatable, your data size increases, the amount of people that you're working with also increases.
Yeah.
And finally, the other thing, I'm glad you brought this slide. It's one of my favorites. I use it for some other things, but when the difference between machine learning software and other software is if you get the thing to work in regular software, it just works.
Yes.
But machine learning models could stop working over
Yeah.
time too, and that's
Yeah.
what this
Yeah.
makes the weirdness even more weird.
Exactly. And you can see the loop backs in the top and bottom. It's like you might have the greatest model to start with. We need to monitor that model and see how you can retrain that model. So, at the bottom you can see there's a retrain. And if things go really bad, you got to start the project all over again and start this whole loop. So you're completely right. It's not like a static thing. Data changes, the AI, the model gets smarter, it learns more things. There can be skews in the data, skews in the model. So definitely that's something you got to take into account, and that's why these cycles are all cyclical.
Well, Abe, this has been an amazing process that you've been talking to us about. But one thing I would like to ask you is maybe you can give us a preview for part two because we've talked a lot about a lot of concepts here.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like how can people, if they're getting started, want to do something like this?
Yeah, so just a little sneak peek of what's coming up next is, I don't like to talk too much about all the process. I want people to start doing. So,
Mhm.
next we're gonna talk to some folks in our team that I work with a bunch. They work with a bunch of customers how to scale up their ML practices, and they're gonna talk through, what is the right process, what is the right architecture, what they've heard from customers, like maybe a little bit of an accelerator on how you can get started yourself. So I don't want to give away too much, but I'm gonna let you stay tuned and listen to what they have to say.
Awesome. And just a reminder, if people want to learn more about this, where can they go?
If you want to learn more about it, like lucky for you, we just released a new MLOps module on the Microsoft Learning website. So if you head over to Microsoft Learning website, the link should be on the screen.
You
You should
got
be
it.
able to start upskilling yourself on MLOps, how to use this for your enterprise or your maybe even your own small project.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being with us today, Abe.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Seth.
Awesome, friends. You've
This
been
was
learning
awesome.
all about how to scale your AI ML practices with ML Ops and Azure Machine Learning, part one of three. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully, we'll see you next time. Take care.